All right, forget fired. Is Donald Trump now saying you're hired? Hi, everyone. I'm Neil Cavuto, back just in time before Charles Payne takes credit for this show. Meanwhile, I don't like him. A little too good for mine.
It was the lunatics running. You know, it was the lunatics running the insane asylum.
Thank you very much. Not on my watch, Payne. All right. Anyway, Donald Trump's team may be learning it has to spend some to get some, signing up some very seasoned political operatives ahead of what could be a rather ugly and nasty contested convention. Something that Charlie Gasparino has been saying, well, he should have been doing all along. Also, here is the aforementioned Charles take advantage of Neil Cavuto. Payne. Jerry Willis, Ben Stein, and Adam Lashinsky. Glad to see all of you. Dagan McDowell, as you just saw, sub-hosting on Bulls and Bears, doing her usual excellent job. All right, so Gasparino, one of the things you've been mentioning is, look, there is no given here, Mr. Trump. You have to start doing what Ted Cruz has been doing.
All along, with an apparatus and an organization that goes to every state, that goes into Louisiana, and even though Donald wins the state, he goes in there and steals delegates because he knows how to play the rules, or by the rules. Today Cruz is in Colorado with his team. He's setting that up, all of them. And he's going to get a lot of them.
We should explain, these are delegates that are uncommitted, they're open playing, and then the idea is, well, can I move them my way? And Cruz is getting them whenever he can.
Listen, this guy is a smart guy. That's what we you know.
Who is?
Ted Cruz.
Okay.
And he created
but
a
you're
great...
talking about me. But
well, that too. Sometimes.
Fine.
Sorry about that. But anyway, you know, in New York is going to be very interesting. Why is everybody laughing at this? Let me finish my point.
Because you're, but anyway, let me say a little bit more, Charlie.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is, like, in New York, what Cruz is going to do with his organization, he's not going to win New York. He knows it. But his idea is to keep Donald below 50 and proportionally take some delegates away.
Well, there are 95, right, Jerry, in New York. And a lot of these other states kind of work the same way. But if you can drive down the win, I understand the math behind it, but it still shows Donald Trump moving forward with more delegates than Ted Cruz.
That's true, but we got a long way to go, right? And I have to respond to something Charles said. So, yes, Charlie, he does need to hire people. He does need experts on the ground. What he really needs are people that he will listen to, because he tends to make his own decisions, and it's getting him into trouble. The blessing out that he gave Ted Cruz after he won Wisconsin was astonishing. He's got to stop that. He's got to turn around and move on.
But he didn't do that, and that's the way we're talking about the campaign's response. They're calling Lion Ted and the cabal and the hip pocket of the establishment, all of that. Not an opportunity to be magnanimous, and he lost that up. But he remains very popular, and the idea being that he can cobble together a lot of delegates in the meantime. Will it be enough that he doesn't need to do this convention stuff?
There's a book that Donald Trump may have to read called Art of the Deal, political style. Political style, because Ted Cruz, to Charlie's point, has been running circles around him. And initially Donald Trump complained, lawsuits, it's not fair. But here's a man who's made his money in the rough and tumble world of business where nothing is fair and none of the rules are written in stone. So he's finally trying to get up to speed. The big question is it too little, too late? I think people will be shocked. Right now, Pennsylvania, you can go right now. 20 delegates already said I'm going to go for Trump. 19 have already said I'm going to go for Cruz. You've got a certain amount that have already said I'm going to vote. People haven't gone to the polls yet. I mean, the game behind the game is where it's at.
I like you said that, because we're going to cover these primaries, and if it was a done deal, they wouldn't watch it. This is very, very good. All right, Ben Stein, let me get your read of this then. I mean, the one prevailing logic goes something like this, that if Donald Trump doesn't get the 1,237 on the first ballot, he's not going to get it in sequential ballots. Do you buy that?
I buy it very, very much. I think, as we used to say about oil, I think we've reached peak Trump. Unless something miraculous happens for him, I think he has shown himself to be an amateur. Why didn't he hire these seasoned operatives and experts long ago?
You think it's too late? In other words, what he's doing is too late?
I think it may well be too late. I'm not sure. I don't know the future. It may well be too late. Did you know, my esteemed boss and chairman here, that at his speeches, Mr. Trump pitches his golf course and his hotels as part of his political speech. That
stakes.
shows a certain cheapness.
By the
I
way,
mean, he's a cheap,
it's not
he's a
just
cheap guy,
Ben,
and he should be spending his money on getting the nomination if he really wants it.
But it's worked for him, being cheaper. Say what you will of it, and spending a little money. Now, guess what your idea has been that it's going to cost him, though, right?
I always believe. Listen, I thought he was going to flame out a lot earlier. He didn't. One of the reasons why he didn't is because there were 16.
Because you didn't listen to me, remember?
No, but he's he's flaming out now. And listen, I don't think you can get 50% of a minority, which is what the Republican voters are, and he can't even get 50% of that by hawking his golf courses, his steaks, his vodka.
All right, I hear what you're saying, but Adam, I want to focus on the numbers right now because he's got a prohibitive lead, and I understand what everyone's saying here about if you pick off uncommitted or slates of delegates, you could maybe cobble together dozens of delegates there that would still leave you. That is Ted Cruz, you know, close to 200 shy of the guy in front of you. So how will that help Ted Cruz?
Well, I don't know that it helps Ted Cruz so much as it hurts Donald Trump. And this is about the Republican Party's rules. And the rules are that if you don't come into the convention with enough votes, then it moves on to another series of votes. And so he easily could lose this because, let's face it, most Republicans don't want this guy. So
that's true.
But some of them like Ted Cruz even less. You know, I mean, it's a choice.
I agree, which is why it could be somebody else.
What do you think, Charles?
Yeah, I think Reince has been under a lot of pressure. What worried me, though, the GOP chairman, is that this week he said it's going to be one of the three remaining candidates. So that leaves Kasich in the mix. I think Trump supporters, most of them, could deal with Cruz coming out with the nomination. They may not like it initially, but they could deal with it. No one could deal with Kasich, and certainly you talk about pitchforks and torches. Let it be someone like a so-called fresh face.
Why do you disagree?
Disagree entirely. Kasich is the moderate. Kasich is the unifier. Kasich is the one who wins in the polls against Hillary.
Charles is
Kasich is the one who can win the election.
Yeah.
And by the way, Trump's big boast is how rich he is and how smart he is with money. If he were so damn smart with money, why didn't he spend some of that money getting seasoned political operatives from the very beginning? And by the way,
he didn't think he had.
Nobody's scared of his lawsuits anymore.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that. What I'm saying is that the voters, not who we think might be the best candidate, but the voters themselves, right now in the Republican Party, would be okay with the Trump and or Cruz.
Yeah,
Anyone
Charles
else,
is right.
I think, is a disaster.
I don't know. Well, Jared, let me ask you this, because I think the Republicans in general, no matter who they choose, face serious headwinds. At the end of the week, we learned that Barack Obama's approval rating is back at 50%. We see other polls that show him seen by almost all voters as the adult in the room. Now, when I say that's a majority of those voters who see him as a unifying force. Now, I'm not saying that to cast a liberal or conservative bent here, but is that something Republicans should pay attention to, as well as this improving economy, steadily gaining jobs month in and month out? Say what you will of the quality of the jobs. And that in the middle of this, Republicans are to focus about who they hate the least. That's not good for
I think the Republican candidates are all over each other and focused on exactly the wrong thing, how to fight best among themselves. And they're not looking at what's more important, which is the broader economy. And to your point, it may look good on the surface, but what's really going on? Since Barack Obama took office, net incomes are down, net worth is down, the proportion of people
his approval
who own
rating
a
is
home.
up. The way
but he's not right.
I'm not
he's not running. You realize he's not running.
I understand that. I'm just saying that we do know there is a time, and Ben Stein, you can help with this. You're a good student of history. The approval rating of the president in office, even though he's not running, does a lot to affect the outcome for the guy who is. And I'm thinking that with Ronald Reagan, with George Bush Sr. in '88. Go ahead.
Couldn't agree more. People, I personally do not care for Mr. Obama, to put it very mildly, but obviously people like him, and we're going into the election with a very, very strong economy, very, very strong, despite the nonsense that Trump says about it. And it's going to take a unified Republican Party to even have a chance to win this election. And we've been tearing ourselves to pieces.
Ben, the unifier will not be John Kasich, unfortunately, because if there's one thing we've learned from the Republican Party in the last 2 years is that the establishment is not whether it's Donald Trump or Ted
Charlie,
Cruz.
that is Neil's
No,
point.
But I agree. But what I'm saying, but my point, let me just make this point.
No, he was going to talk about my
The
point.
establishment has lost at every turn. Eric Cantor has lost.
No,
John
but you're
Boehner
missing,
has lost. You cannot just throw in there
Understood.
some establishment guy and think you're gonna unify the party now.
And Adam, that was the fear that was expressed, right, among, I guess, between Cruz and Trump. They've got 80+% of the delegates. If you give it to an outside guy, even if it's Kasich, they'll be held to pay. What do you think?
But I agreed, and where I thought you were going, Neil, is that this bodes very well for Hillary Clinton, assuming that she is the
Well, that's
nominee.
what I was saying that as well. Yes.
It depends on the candidate. I'm telling you, if you look at the Real Clear Politics averages, which I hate to be citing all the time, she doesn't beat Cruz by that much. She's up by 3.
She's tied with him in one poll.
Yeah.
She's got the wind at her back, though.
Yeah.
And by the way, if it's Bernie Sanders, so does he.
Suppose she gets indicted.
Well, that's a wild That's a wild guy.
Yeah, not too wild.
I don't think Bernie Sanders does have the wind at his back. I don't think any
Well, we'll
socialist
see
in
about
America
that, Mr.
has the wind
Stein.
at his
We'll
back.
see
Won
about
7 out of
that.
8. I don't know.
All right.